Hello, Booknerds. Welcome to the Booknerds podcast. It has been quite a whirlwind week for me. I've been reading this very different book from a new author, and that always excites me. When I encounter an author who has gone against what everybody else is writing in the genre, because when you send your manuscripts to publishers these days, the common answers, questions that are asked are that how will it sell, whom it will sell to, all those marketing questions. And I'm sure the author for today must have gone through all these questions. But she has went on to kind of publish this with a publisher, and the book is called, it's here, right here with me. It's called Renarche. I hope I'm pronouncing it well, or am I close? You can always correct me.
So it is Renarche.
It's Renarche. Okay. Okay. So I figured it out from the arc. So I figured that it would be Renarche. And the author's name is Hetal Shah. And makes total sense that there is an arc in the Renarche because Hetal has studied to be an architect, but she has, went towards storytelling, writing, and languages later in life. What I can figure from her bio, and later also she studied about energies and their healing properties. She loves everything in the cross intersection of spirit, quantum, and molecular biology. And on a daily basis, she says that she loves cooking and storytelling. So we are very happy with that because I also love both of those things. And I have other interests also. We'll be talking about a lot of stuff here. Some people might find it a bit difficult to understand. We'll be talking about quantum physics, quantum travel, perhaps, a little bit of spirituality, maybe, but mostly about the book and how it is such a new storytelling format and a storyline. So, thank you, Hetal, for writing the book. And I'm so impressed because in these 9,800 odd pages, which is a very good number of pages for Gen Z, because they want to pick up 100-page books and be satisfied in a single setting. I was so happy, but it took time for me to kind of get into the world because it is not uh, those fluffy romantic books out there where you'll just, there's a boy and a girl and you figure out everything. That's not going to happen with this book. It will challenge you to challenge yourself intellectually, and that's what I loved about the book. Thank you so much and congratulations. So, Hetal, while reading the book, the genre is so new, and I could figure that this is a very unique writing process. And of course, editing comes later. That is a separate question. But what was your experience writing this? Because it is a very different storytelling format as well. And it is new to, it may be new to many readers. So, do tell us more about this.
Sure. So after a very intense personal loss, uh, was after my father. I was going through a recuperation period, and I undertook many practices to come out of it. As a result, there was a very strong force of creativity created, you know, around my feelings, and I just started writing to begin with, thinking that I'll pen down my story. I always wanted to write, and I always knew it was something to do with women. So, yeah, it started as maybe I thought I'll write about myself. But when I started writing, it was almost trance like. I saw so many different visions, and I just started penning them down. And like a story, it's exactly how I used to tell stories to my children as well when they were younger. I would make things up and it would just keep going and flowing as if one thing joins and the other. I can see figures and places and people. So, yeah, this story also followed the same format. And I always tell all my friends, the funny part was I finished writing very soon. In 6 months, I was done. But it's the editing took 2.5 years.
I think that's something which is very important as well. I mean, you can
It
always
is.
kind of
Definitely.
get in the zone and write a lot, like maybe perhaps 100,000 pages, 100,000 words, and then you realize that on the editing table, and especially if you have beta readers and editors around you, they will tell you certain things from a different perspective, and then you realize, oh my gosh, I have kind of done overdone this or undercooked this. It could
No,
easily
but
happen, right?
yeah. I had strict instructions to the editors not to touch any language or the storyline because it was, I intended it to be raw and just out there. Yeah, I did not intend to please anybody's literary senses because it's not piece of literature as much as experience. I
Yeah.
think it's an experience.
Yeah. I think that then it makes sense to go with publishers where you are not questioned about your conviction. Because otherwise, if you get into the traditional publishing system, they will try to change it.
That was a nightmare. That was a nightmare. You will not believe the kind of questions they put up for us, and it's crazy. I'm a writer. I'm not a marketer.
Yeah. So the first
Before I
question
even
is,
submitted the manuscript,
yeah,
sorry,
would you like
before
to
I even
share? Would you
submitted the
like to share
manuscript,
some experiences without
it's
naming?
hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. No
Yeah.
names.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Before I even shared the manuscript, they wanted me to fill out a form in
Okay.
which they had asked me to pitch my book against leading books of this genre
Hmm.
and why is my book better than that book and
Okay.
why it would sell, as you rightly said, about the saleability. First things first, I haven't even researched this genre. Second, why would I put someone else's book down to make my book look better ever?
And what is
What
the
kind of
genre?
logic?
The first question is, what is the genre?
Exactly. I
Because
haven't researched this genre as like, okay,
this is
I'm going
not
to
a
write in this
genre.
genre. And
This is not a
yeah, they don't
genre.
care actually.
This is
Yeah.
Hetal. This won't be a genre. I mean, you can force it on the book, but this book is quite genre defying. And in my lead up questions, we'll obviously discuss many things which will make it more clear why we are talking like this and why we are questioning the traditional publishing process here, because these questions are marketing questions. They are not editorial in any way. So I would appreciate if publishers would ask the editorial questions first. But I guess we live in this world that we have to sell everything. So I don't know, but it pains me sometimes that innovative stories, not only with publishing, it's coming to OTT and streaming as well. Some innovative stories are not getting greenlit because of the marketing constraints. Yeah, market forces. Okay, perfect. And while reading the book, and I'll come to the publishing process again, uh, immediately my mind went back to the time when I watched Matrix, and all those memories of me not understanding a movie, watching it in Hindi for the first time because that was what was available in India near my house. So I got the Hindi version, and then I watched it, just appreciated the action.
Yeah.
And the second viewing, I was like, okay, I think I missed something. Because when I was discussing it with my peers, they were like, didn't you understand, like it talks about so many other things. It's philosophy and all those things, right? Spirituality, God, a hell lot of other things as well. So I went back, watched it in English again. Still, I couldn't figure out what the heck is happening because I didn't understand the English, to be honest. Back then, I was like, what, 12, 13, 14? I don't know, something like that in my teens. Watched it the third time, then started to kind of understand what is this thing that I have experienced. Similar feeling dawned on me when I picked up this book and I was reading it in a very sort of I read it in a very noisy pub. Let me tell you that, and I was zoned out. I was zoned out. In fact, immediately I created a reel also on Instagram that I am in my zone because it forced me into it. I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't read this, something like this for a while now. So, would you like to tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about the concept of the book and the basic premise, with, of course, Rene and Ismat being at the center of everything, and then evolving into something very different, very, in some ways, I would say, very enigmatic. So, would you like to shed some light on that?
Yes, but you rightly said that it takes a couple of readings to really grasp the layers beneath the layers. To be honest, even when I was going through the book again while I was editing it, there were so many subliminal messages I myself got. As I said that since it was written in a flow state, it uh, I didn't change the language on purpose. So when I read it again and again and again, there's a lot of layers opening up, and that is exactly what this book is based on. Lots of layers, tons of layers. It's the life of these two characters, the protagonists. It's it's written as it changes on a physical level, on the spiritual level, and right down till the quantum. Any one change always has these kind of ripple effects, and yeah, the changes are recorded through these without mentioning very explicitly that this is the spiritual meaning or this is like some quantum feeling. It's something every reader picks up at their own pace or may not pick it up and just read it like a fantasy novel. And yes, but there is a conscious note there that things just don't happen overnight. And yeah, there are realms other than which we believe or see.
That was very interesting for me because, so guys, when you read the book you'll understand that there are two characters, Rene and Ismet, who who have their own mundane things and mundane lives, but when they experience uh, this these phenomena, so they grow on to become something more, and that is just super to experience in the book, which I won't spoil it for you because it is something which you need to experience by reading, because we can't put a projector and project everything here. Um, but this the quantum part of the book, whatever you may call it, the quantum concepts, which some readers may not detect in the first time during the first time, have all of a sudden been cropping up in pop culture also, right? We saw that in a movie which didn't very well, Tenet, the Marvel movies, the Ant-Man movies, all those things, Interstellar, especially Interstellar. We I'll be asking you a question about a particular part of the book where there is a library where something happens. So that was very interesting for me. I drew an immediate parallel to Interstellar and what was happening there. So the science of it is so fascinating. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is what I love to read. I I want to be challenged. I don't want things to be fed to me. I hate that. I would rather reread a book and understand it rather than just reading half the book and okay, man, it's I don't like that. So do tell us about these connections that perhaps I was trying to figure out, the quantum parts, and what is your opinion on it, because you are also interested in this field, and like I said in the introduction, you love to read up on this as well. So what are your observations on this and inculcating that in the book? How is that like?
So, as human beings, we're still researching this concept. Um, I'm sure some scientists have really broken that barrier and gone deeper, and maybe they don't tell it out into the public yet. But from what I understood and from what I feel about it, the quantum realm, as depicted in the book, is something that is not at all obvious, which as it is in our own life. It only becomes obvious when you see the changes. It only shows its presence as a change. So the characters, as they evolve and they dig deeper into their own psyches, and there are notes of how they have adopted certain practices. I have written down all of those. That kind of shifts them from that level up. The changes happen in the quantum of their own space, which is why their world changes. And that's how it's documented as well. I have gone further to explore molecular physics, where, uh, yeah, the entire beingness dissolves in one realm and reappears in another, which I'm sure is far fetched science. One day we will be able to do it. But there is a lot of, I feel there's a lot of solid ground there. It's not fantasy, honestly. It's just that we haven't reached there yet. A lot of concepts that we know today, for example, the mobile phone, was something imaginary like 100 years ago. But we're getting there.
I mean, we have always noticed things coming up in pop culture, right? And then they just happen. You know, they just happen. I remember watching the Minority Report, and I thought that, okay, why is this guy Tom Cruise, how is he doing it, like swiping screens? And now it's completely normal. I mean, so I think so we can't rule out anything. And I think so the Marvel fanboys and girls will also sometimes are like, okay, what the hell, Quantum Mania, why are we watching this? Is this real? Will this be real ever? But I think so we don't know much about the world still, about the universe, so you never know.
This juncture, I'd like to add reality is stranger than fiction. So, what we read is really not as amazing as what is really happening. Yeah, and that kind of support the argument whether whatever is in the book, is it imaginary or will it ever be real? The day it will be real, it's going to be stranger. It's going to be stranger than what's written in them.
Hetal, I won't doubt anything after being experiencing as a millennial. We have experienced so much, and in 2025, in fact, as we speak, there's so much happening in the world, in all sorts of shapes and sizes. I won't rule out anything.
And it's all strange.
It's all
And it's
strange.
all strange.
It's all strange. Nobody
How
could.
can it?
How can it be? I mean, back in the day, there would be books and movies about, a pandemic, and it happened. It happened, and it was bad, and it was similar, if not worse. So, I mean, we can't rule out anything. Um, I was talking about the library scene, which was very interesting for me. I would love if you could perhaps tell the viewers and readers a little bit about it.
The library scene is what is where this story will delve a little bit into spirituality. It switches between spirituality and science so quickly. One would never be able to kind of draw a real clear line that this is the science part of it, because it isn't. I genuinely believe that they're both very parallel. Um, so to introduce what this is talking about is, there is a very well known concept of something called the Akasha. It is the Akashic records. It is a universal library um, that the human mind can access. Basically, all of us, like just like the show in the Matrix, we are plugged into a common consciousness. And so we have access to the common knowledge out there. It's just a matter of being in that state to be able to access it. So at this point, Rene, the character, um, actually gets plugged in. And what she sees looks like a library, because that is exactly how the Akasha looks. It looks like a library. So the human mind immediately draws parallels that, okay, there are lots of books, there are shelves, this is a library. It may not be technically called that back in the realm where it is. And um, because Renin is the doubting one. She's skeptical by nature. So she's a little not ready to accept what's happening here. But eventually she gets pulled into the drama that's happening there and she ends up reading and she snaps out of it as quickly as she had entered.
Awesome. So this part, I mean, yeah, that is pretty interesting, because if you read the book on a very surface level, then you figure that Rene is in a library, and you won't figure out all these layers, and perhaps a deep reading may reveal these things. But in the first
Only reveals. So yeah, I think the book reveals as much as the reader wants to learn. I feel that.
amazing, because these kind of stories and um, books or movies or whatever, they last longer, they have a longer shelf life, because all the fans kind of try to get those little nuggets they might have missed, and all those little pieces, they want to figure out things and go deeper into it, and that happens with the best content out there. So I really loved that part. Okay, about Rene and Ismat, uh, at one point, and they are at a tug of war with realities, right? There are parallel realities, and they are not able to figure
True.
out. They are slightly taken aback and what's happening with them, and it's a beautiful self discovery journey. But you if something like this happens to someone, it's pretty understandable that what's happening is not really crystal clear to them as well. So what's happening here? What's they're feeling? Because they are also on one hand in the mundane, and on the other side, all these things are happening to them. So what's their mental state here? Both of them.
As you rightly said, they are split between what's real and what's not. As much as they like to tag it as fantasy or imagination, it's not, because it changes their real. It changes what's real for them. It has a repercussion. It's it's almost like watching a movie and then everything in that movie starts happening to you. That would be eerie. That would be very creepy. But that's exactly what's happening with them.
Oh my gosh,
As
I'm
much as they're absorbing themselves into mystical learnings, they find their life changing very fast.
yeah. And at some points in the book, although I won't be revealing too much because then it takes the fun out of reading, but they're snapping in and out of realities, what I figured, and their their geographical and realm locations are kind of also not too clear in the book. So am I reading it wrong, or that's what's happening in the book?
So, scientifically speaking, at the very spot that we are sitting right now, there is a presence of another realm. We cannot see it because it vibrates at a different frequency than our realm does. So, yes, it's been depicted in a few movies where someone who you could see it if you change your radio frequency. So, someone who can tune in and tune out can get this glitch or blip images of life. It's called hallucinatory. It's what happens when someone does ayahuasca. They kind of tune into different frequencies and they can see whatever it is, it's overlapping. Where there is someone else sitting, they actually see some animals instead. That is what many people who do those, go through those experiences say.
Mentioned a concept here. I didn't understand it. I don't know about it. What's that?
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a hallucinatory drug,
Okay.
which is common in South America.
Okay.
People generally visit the Amazon to experience it. It's done in a very shamanic and ritualistic style.
Okay. What's
It's
the
not
name?
something that you
What's the name
commonly
again?
find.
What's
Ayahuasca.
ayahuasca? Okay. Got it.
It's a Mexican word, so the writing and the pronunciation are slightly different. It's very popular among the trending spiritualists. A lot of people just go there for that experience. It's like a flash Kundalini awakening. Like you get it done in a few moments. But yeah, of course, it has its tolls.
Absolutely. It
I'm not
sounds,
endorsing it. I'm just comparing the effects. I'm just comparing the
yeah,
effects. Yeah.
it sounds, and it's a great sort of segue into my next question, actually. That, you
Okay.
know, these experiences, and I'll just quote from the book about Ismat. Ismat didn't know whether to heave a sigh of relief, catch her breath, or be stunned. Instead, she choked like a fish out of water. Customarily, Ismat closed her eyes and bowed her head in agreement and obedience. The silence of the moment enveloped her. Ismat opened her eyes to the quiet of a nearby garden bench. She gathered that the keyword here was prepared. And many encounters with spirit in human, animal, or natural forms in dreams, in flashes as downloads into her being, she continued her education of the self, committed. She was ready to be operated on, stripped, cut, severed, and yet stitched back to becoming or re being who she was born to be. So this is not easy. It's not an easy process. That there is constant education in this, and someone who's just trying to do it for a fad, like a fad, some people who try that, like you mentioned, it could be, it couldn't be that easy, right? It could result in certain problems as well.
No. Yeah. Which is very clearly depicted in the book. Only one thing leads to another. You cannot jump. You should not jump. Nobody should jump processes or try to do something because someone else got a very nice shortcut from it. It doesn't work for them. It kind of is misleading. So these girls got their way out because they went step by step.
So, there's this part in the book, in the other realm, when all the rivers dry up and the last tree cut down, only then will we realize as a race that we cannot eat money, which resonated with Renesmee, who is introduced later in the book. Her fingers rested on her bracelet. And this world, other world, please tell us about this. It's called Iartha, right? I hope I am
Ayartha.
pronouncing Ayartha. Ayartha. And the second half of the book, we are mostly, talking about this. So, what's in store for the readers in the second half of the book? What are they going to experience? Not revealing too much, no spoilers, please, but thoda bahut agar, we can talk about it.
Yeah. It's it's a parallel run and people are like us, but their evolution is slightly different. They don't think and behave like Earth human beings do. So the differences that we see there are largely due to that. The way they take their decisions, the way they approach a problem, everything is different because they are a little more evolved as a race. That is what is depicted throughout that second half. So the yeah, if I would say anything else, it would be revealing.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the
As
case.
tempted as I am. Yeah.
I know. You shouldn't give more spoilers, and that's the case with thrillers also. You can't talk too much because then it reveals a lot, and then the entire fun is gone. But I would love to touch
True.
upon an entity which was shown at multiple times in the book, and that's Narissa, which was very, I mean, very an enchanting figure, almost fantasy like, but not really fantasy because we know this is not. Uh, a bit about that, because to visualize that and sort of, it looked very. Of course, with reading, that's the advantage that we have. We can imagine an entity, and it's fabulous. You can imagine anything. So, but
Yes,
what was
yes.
your in your head?
Yeah. Yeah. The visualization is very rich. I enjoyed um, thinking about Narissa as the character. She is full of presence. She's full of breath. She is, she's not human, of course. She's depicted as a goddess. So during the story, she appears to these protagonists time and again, and it makes one wonder that why does she choose to do that? What is so special about these people? The parallel to draw for a reader is that even when, as a person, as an individual, you or me, if we are following certain practices, maybe we read a lot. It's a sadhana, it's a discipline. Reading is a discipline. Or maybe we chant a lot. At such times, certain entities do visit us, and they choose to visit us because there is some history with them. That is what the story hints at. So Rene and Ismat have a history with Narissa, which is what is hinted there. The, it's crazy. Why wouldn't someone like her visit these, as you rightly said, mundane ladies? So it's something to probe in our own head. If we are getting such feelings, we need to understand it more than what we feel and what we see in even in our mundane lives.
Absolutely fascinating. I would encourage the readers to read the book and experience it themselves, because it's an experience. Usually, I don't use the word very often, but it's actually an experience. And reading is a practice, so why not experience new things? Okay. Finally, it's the Book Nerds podcast. We love book recommendations. Any side reads or reference reads you can recommend besides, of course, the book at hand, Renarche. This you guys have to pick up anyways. But any side reads to this which you would, and your reading preferences, that would also be good.
Yeah. So strangely enough, I do not read a lot of stories. I only say stories, but I don't read them. The stories are made up from all the facts that I collect. So yeah, I read more science based or fact based books. I That's all I can recommend, honestly. Uh, I follow this speaker. He's very popular. He's Dr. B.M. Hegde, very popular all over the world. Fantastic. Anybody who loves understanding medicine with a twist of mysticism should definitely listen to him. He recommended so many books, and which I have read, all of them almost. I can recommend those because they are iconic books. It's a book called Molecules of Emotion. It's written by a scientist, but the flow of the language is so beautiful, you wouldn't make out she's not a writer. And it's about her experiment with the AIDS virus. But she has introduced very humane aspects from time to time. And she talks about molecular biology in depth. And it really gets one thinking. It's crazy. It's really deep. I would recommend it. And there is a book by Dr. Bruce Lipton, uh, a very popular book, Biology of Belief. The beautiful book, once again touching upon how your belief systems can change your body. By just changing what you believe in, changes the entire structure of the body, the very cells of the body. Yeah. So it's a very potent field of science, which if it's tapped into and worked upon, it can really revolutionize the way we see the health industry today. Great magic, honestly, just like magic.
Fascinating. I think maybe at a later stage, if you write about all this at all, although you have in some ways, but
Honestly, plus it is embedded into the book somewhere, but not very obviously. It's That's not the fun in it.
good
I don't
that you
want
did
to.
it. Good that
Oh,
you did it, because many people wouldn't prefer non-fiction textbook like narratives, because for the lack of narrative, perhaps. People want to have fun with books in general. In general, I know there are people who want to just learn. Non-fiction is booming across the world, but there is an entire sect, they just want to have fun and experience and feel.
yeah, it's a subtle way of introducing that non-fictional world to a story reader, that this is what is out there. And honestly, storytelling is in our DNA. through the ages, our ancestors have passed on very, very crucial knowledge through story. This is just an attempt to replicate that.
Yeah, yeah. Amazing, amazing. I think so. This could well be one of my favorite podcasts of 2025 because it was so different, and that's what I am here for. I mean, I could have perhaps put a rocket ship in space if I wanted to earn really good money, but I chose to do this for a profession. But I loved it. Thank you so much, Hetal. I am so glad that you have come to the Booknerds podcast, and looking forward to so much more for from you coming in the years. And this is just the start, I believe, guys. I'm not even kidding. This book will challenge you intellectually. Read it. Leave a review on Amazon, whatever you feel like. If you feel that you had fun with it, you thought things could get better, just leave a review. It helps the author. It gives the author feedback for future works. And I'm sure Hetal would love to take some feedback from readers and perhaps
Absolutely.
improve in the coming books. And yeah, I think so. Maybe a research paper also on the side. That could be in the offing. Have you tried that by any chance?
I'm not a scientist, so no.
I would say that one doesn't need to be a scientist to do that. But anyways, you have read up in this field, and I believe that many things are possible. Thank you so much for writing this and being on the Book Nerds podcast, guys. Till next time, happy reading. Experience the book. Do let us know in the comments what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, and yeah, we'll see you next time in some other podcast with some other author and some other genre. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Namaste.